Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. When you're teaching through the Bible, I have a rule for myself, which is 80% of my time should be spent on teaching the Bible, and 20% should be spent on talking about the culture, current events, things like that, because it is important. It does impact us, and it does impact the way we express our faith. So we're going to do some of that today. Joining me today is Trent Talbot. He's the CEO of Brave Books. He's also an author of a couple of books himself. Trent, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Ezra. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Now, Trent, could you help us out? What is Brave Books? It's a publishing house. What's your specialty? Where are you coming from here?
Yeah, we make children's books, and we have a book series called the Freedom Island series. It's basically a book of the month club in which our subscribers get a new book every single month, and each book teaches a new pro-God, pro-American value. And we don't shy away from some of the issues that our kids are being faced with in culture, things like freedom of speech, the trans topic, things like that. And so cancel culture, CRT, communism even, and we cover some Christian topics, family, fruits of the spirit, biblical wisdom. So we're a Christian conservative children's book publisher.
That's great. Part of the reason I wanted to highlight you guys was because there's a lot of people in the culture war sphere, but they're coming at it almost completely from a political stance. A lot of them are Christians themselves, or maybe Jews, other denominations with Judeo-Christian values, but they want to leave their religion out of it and just focus on the politics. But you guys aren't shying away from either front, which I find to be very refreshing, because if we're going to fight this culture war, it has to be done with our Christian values at the forefront. So, Trent, why did you get into this business? What inspired you to become a children's book author?
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to answer that. Just to piggyback on your previous point, yeah, it's, to me, you can't basically explain your position on a lot of these topics without, or at least I couldn't, my position on the sanctity of life, or freedom or family. It's hard to explain those to kids if you're not coming at it through a biblical worldview. And to me, that's the most important worldview that our kids can have. And so yeah, we definitely don't want to shy away from that, because we think it's just essential in children understanding these topics. So anyway, yeah, just wanted to mention that. And then as far as what inspired me to start Brave Books, I was an ophthalmologist, an eye surgeon doing cataract surgery. That's what I did up until a couple years ago. And I was saved about 4 years ago, was married shortly after that, and then had my oldest daughter. Her name's Charlotte, and she was born in the summer of 2020. And during summer 2020, that's like peak COVID time, peak craziness. and I was, she was taking a nap in my arm, and I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I stumbled upon the trailer for the film Cuties, which is a film by Netflix that just really sexualizes young girls, like in the 10 to 12 range. And I was just looking up Charlotte thinking, I mean, she's going to be that age before I know it. And that's the type of stuff she's going to be seeing. That's the world that she's going to be growing up in. It just really broke my heart. And you just change whenever you have kids, and I couldn't sleep. So concurrently at this time, Anti-Racist Baby was the #1 book on all of Amazon. My future business partner in Brave, his daughter was gifted the latest Nancy Drew book, and there happened to be a trans character in it. So it's kind of like when you get a new car, you see that car everywhere, that brand of car.
Mm-hmm.
Have a kid, and you see the sort of the indoctrination everywhere. And so it was really bothering me. And just this vision for Brave Books came about, and our Freedom Island series, which is basically the idea that we wanted to create a universe and a cast of characters that kids could fall in love with. And so our series, it all takes place on an island called Freedom Island. And we have Team Brave. Those are the protagonists. We've got villains like Culture the Vulture, Blackheart. And we just want to create a place for kids where they have a ton of fun.
To your point of the indoctrination for our kids, I get told probably every week, every other week, if not daily sometimes, that it's not happening and that it's good that it is. And so I want to show, I do have some things from our local high school library. If we could bring those up on the screen, some materials that are being offered there that really just kind of curled my toes. We got things like GLBTQ, the survival guide for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and questioning teens, and other things like this. We're throwing them up on the screen here as we go through. And this was just a little 20-minute Google search I did looking for the ones that would obviously have it in the title. But as we go through, I don't know how much more my local high school here in conservative Idaho has in it that these kids have access to, much less the middle schools or, God forbid, the elementary schools, which is why I am so excited when I heard about Brave Books, I was so excited to hear that someone's in this space trying to offer a counter to these things. Like, oh, this one's my favorite. Queer There and Everywhere. 23 people who changed the world. It's not even trying to hide it. That's in our local high school. And so when I heard about Brave Books, I was very excited that someone is trying to offer this counter. We like to say here at CSN and here at The Effect that we don't want to just call someone out when they're doing wrong. We want to offer them an alternative as well. I think that's super important to actually have an alternative here. When I was a kid, I was homeschooled. I grew up with 4 brothers, total of 5 boys. My mother was worried out of her mind all the time. And she found out the easiest way to deal with us was to kind of throw books at us, and we would be kind of quiet for an afternoon. So she would take us to the local Barnes & Noble, and she would just kind of let us run around and pick out books. And my parents didn't have to worry about that. You can't do that anymore. You can't go into your local bookstore and let your kids just pick out books because you honestly don't know what's in them. Sometimes it's something completely unrelated. And it has these wild, indoctrinating things in it. So I'm very, very happy to see that you guys are doing the work and that you have a heart for this work, moreover.
Well, words of wisdom. Don't go look and see what they're putting in the elementary school libraries. Now, there's some very sick and grotesque things there. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what's going on. And it's hard to wrap your head around how we got here and why there's such a cohesive effort to get this type of content in front of our kids. It's bizarre and it's really concerning. And so, yeah, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, we just think that there needs to be an alternative, to all of this programming, this messaging that's out there right now. And so our goal is to become the brand that people like your mom could trust, if she, if y'all were 5, 6, 7 today, that she could just trust that, hey, I'm going to go get some books from Brave, the Freedom Islands. I know I don't have to worry about what's in those books or what's going to happen in season 3 or 4, because they're, we want to support the parents to help them reinforce the values that they hold dear, not the values of their enemies, of the world. And so we feel like parents need that right now. It's so hard to be a parent trying to get entertaining content for your kids, because that's an important part of being a kid. It's letting your imagination run wild, and things that can help that imagination and teach lessons are super important. And so we don't want parents to be in the position where they just say, I'm done with books, or I'm done with TV, and things like that. We think that there just needs to be brands and companies like us that have Christian conservative parents back, and provide them with those tools to help instill, reinforce strong morals, strong values that they believe in.
Absolutely. When we talk about the culture war, something that Christians and conservatives have had a gripe with for a long time, rightfully so, is that no one actually wants the fight. They just want the credit for the fight, which was why the way I found out about Brave Books was Kirk Cameron's book, As You Grow, which I've seen this book. It is a beautiful book, beautiful values in it. You follow this tree as it grows, and through the different stages of the tree's life, you get taught different lessons. It's beautiful, and I love it. And I saw on Fox News that you guys had started doing story hours for As You Grow. Kirk would go around to different libraries and set up and read the book to kids. And there were a bunch of libraries that were rejecting that offer. And in response, you guys put out a couple of open letters, which I have here. I want to read a little bit of this because I do enjoy it a little bit. This one's to the Indianapolis Public Library, where you said, so many of our communities, perhaps like yours, are facing rates of crime, abortion, and murder well above the national average, and I believe the children in your community would benefit from hearing a message teaching biblical wisdom, as I explained in my new book. And it goes on to say, as I understand from my publisher, your strategic plan for author visits includes a push for authors who are diverse. By that, we were told, you mean to limit your diversity purely to authors of color. You may understand why it surprised me to learn that, committed to inclusivity as it appears to be, you elected to exclude me based upon my skin color and the religious beliefs espoused in my new book. Now, this story does have a happy ending. It took me a lot of digging. To find anybody reporting on you guys actually getting to go to these libraries, because they all backed down. But I do have this one from a local outlet. 700 people. This is for the one up in New York. 700 visitors overtake the library for Kirk Cameron's story hour. What was the thought process here? It had to be really confusing at first when libraries told you, actually, no, we don't want to feature this.
Yes. Well, we had a suspicion. Kirk's got a heart for not just for Christians, but for kids that are growing up in homes that aren't Christian, and are hearing some maybe messages that aren't ideal. And so we've done plenty of story hours in red areas, but he wanted to go into some of these areas that are more hostile to biblical wisdom and talk about it. And so we approached 54 different libraries that have hosted drag queen story hours and said, hey, we'd love to come and just do a reading. We're not asking you to sponsor us. So people don't know this, but these drag queen story hours, they're actually often sponsored, meaning that the libraries pay tax dollar money to these drag queens to come and do their drag queen story hours. We weren't asking for that. All we wanted to do, we actually asked to pay for the space to do a reading to kids in the area. And they all either said no outright, or they just didn't respond. And so yeah, it became a national story, but we pushed back and we threatened lawsuit to a few of them, and they backed down. And the one in Indianapolis was incredible. There was 2,500 people there. It's a 6-story library, and every single floor was at capacity. And there was people outside. So Kirk was going floor to floor doing readings. He got on the intercom and sort of did a reading to everybody at the library at once. And it was beautiful. There was songs breaking out of God Bless America, and really, really cool. And so it was special to be a part of.
That sounds fantastic. I think a lot of us are apt to write off the big inner city areas. We see that they've voted blue, that they've been kind of these terrible places for a while. So we just kind of write it off in our mind and we say, oh, there's nothing good there, nothing really to be redeemed. But there is. And there are parents who want this stuff. And so, Trent, I got to ask, you mentioned television earlier. What's in the future for Brave Books? What's the plan to go even further here?
We think that there is a market for children's entertainment content that helps reinforce the values that Christian conservative parents hold dear. And we've demonstrated that, and we've put together just this incredible team that we are going that we're going to be. We sort of want it all, and we think that the parents deserve it. We're very soon we're getting into middle grade chapter books, young adult novels, some books for toddlers. So with books, we want to hit all ages by early 2024. Have content for all ages. And then the next step is have it be on screen, TV shows, movies, and then who knows where we go from there. Maybe a theme park one day. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Freedom Island. Let's see if I can find it.
We actually have a graphic of it here of your first book, The Fight for Freedom Island here.
Well, let me show you this. So when somebody gets their very first book, which I don't know if you bought it from Amazon, if you buy it from our website, buy a book from our website, you get a free poster.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Something like that. So this is Freedom Island, and kids just fall in love with it. So there's different landmarks on the island. There's different places to put stickers. With every book, you get a new sticker, and you sort of unlock a character, And so, that to me, that the name Freedom Island, the world that we've built, seems like it would be a good theme park one day. We'll see.
Sounded a little bit like a young Walt Disney there.
Maybe. I mean, we've got an incredible team here of writers and visionaries and yeah. So, Disney doesn't represent those people anymore, and so somebody needs to have their back, and we think we're up for the task.
Well, I really hope you are. I will be watching Brave Books with great interest over the next couple of years, and maybe you might even see a little something from me in your inbox at some point. But Trent, thank you so much for coming on. For our listeners, if you're interested in finding some books that your kids will actually like and will not try to indoctrinate them, it's bravebooks.us, bravebooks.us. Trent, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Ezra.
Absolutely. God bless.